साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Sai Ram, dear listeners, and welcome once again to Radio Sai Study Circle. This is the fourth episode of our program, and before we begin, we would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to you for all the encouraging comments that we have been receiving since we started this series. Like in other episodes, apart from me, there are the other three alumni from Swami's University, Amey Deshpande, Sai Giridhar, and K.M. Ganesh, and Mr. Srirangarajan, the controller of examinations in Bhagawan's University, who as always will be moderating this session. He is also, by the way, an alumnus of Swami's University. So let's get started with this fourth episode of Radio Sai Study Circle. Rangarajan sir, last time we discussed about Namasmarana, no shortcut in spirituality and so on. So what are we doing today?
Thanks, Vishu. We again have one more story narrated by Bhagawan, and as he often makes stories very humorous and at the same time very practical, here he talks of the 5 fingers of a hand. Now we know all of them work in unison, in harmony, but Swami says one day they started fighting with each other and there was a big argument. And first the thumb claimed, "It is not possible to undertake any work without me, hence I am great." And then Swami humorously says, the index finger smiled and said, "Look here, O thumb, how can you perform any task without my support? Moreover, I am used as a pointer to identify individuals. Hence, I am greater than you." Then came the turn of the middle finger. The middle finger intervened and said, "There is no point in what you all say. I am the tallest among all the fingers. 2 of you on one side and 2 of you on the other side serving me as ADCs. Hence, I am the greatest." And then Swami moves on. He says, the ring finger said, "I feel like laughing at your ignorance. Don't you know that people adorn me with gold rings studded with precious stones like diamond, emerald, topaz, etc.? Hence, I am your king." And finally, as is always the case, the little finger came up and said, "I always lead from the front when it comes to teaching a lesson to someone and punishing the guilty. Hence, I am your leader and you have to follow me." And this is how the argument goes on according to Bhagawan. And finally, what happens? The heart intervenes. And it says, "O ignorant ones, each one of you is as important as the other. One cannot perform any task if there is no unity and harmony among you. In fact, you represent the 5 human values, the 5 life breaths, the 5 divine principles of a human being." And then Bhagavan goes on to say how the 5 fingers learned the lesson and started again working in harmony and orderly way. So today's story, brothers, is about diversity, but yet the unity which permeates this diversity. So what we are going to discuss is about this very important aspect, what we see all around us in creation, so much of diversity. So in the first part, we would like to discuss, why is diversity necessary? When Bhagavan says there is only one and there is only one God, then why did he create all this diversity? Then we'll move on to try and understand how this diversity came about. What is its genesis? What is the source? And further, we will have to discuss about how do we see unity in diversity?
How do we deal with this diversity?
How do we deal with this diversity and then try to see that unifying underlying principle in diversity, which is always what Swami is talking about in every discourse, in every message of his. But then we'll come back to understand why are we not able to see the unity in diversity? Because as we'll be discussing, most of the problems we face today is because we fail to see this unity in diversity. And finally, we will conclude with the key to the success, how exactly we can do this. So I hope this is fine with all of us.
Absolutely.
So then why don't we begin with the first part as to why is diversity necessary? Let me again come in with my little bit of story, but again there's a Chinnakatha narrated by Bhagawan, and it struck me very much because it gives you the clear message of why you need this differentiation, not only from a spiritual point of view, but purely from the functioning of the society at a secular level. Now here was a king, He was ruling a kingdom. Things were going on very well. He was very happy. But he was so sensitive to the troubles of people, to the difficulties of the people. So he said, I want to pray to God to make everybody like me. Why should all of them not be like kings? So he goes to the forest, meditates for a long time, and finally God appears. He says, "Oh king, what do you want?" And the king says, "God, why there are so many troubles? Why so many difficulties? Some people are poor, some are rich, some do mean kind of tasks, and some do more, important jobs. Why can't all be same?" God says, "Are you sure you want this?" The king says, "Yes, God, this is the type of kingdom I want." And then God says, "Okay, if this is really what you want, I'll grant you your wish." And the king is very happy, and then he gets up. And then as he moves back to his city after crossing the forest, he suddenly finds the whole picture has changed. The roads are dirty, all clothes are lying on the road unwashed, the drainages are overflowing, and he wonders what happened in this few days that I went to the forest, what went wrong? He enters his palace, everything in a shabby way, and he realizes that all the people had become wealthy, had risen up the ladder like him, and all were potential kings. So nobody wanted to wash clothes, nobody wanted to clean the roads, nobody wanted to drive the buses. And then it dawned upon the king that what a wrong thing I asked for, because this sort of equality will not allow a society to function. Of course, then Swami says the king goes back to the forest and says, "Oh God, I'm so sorry." Like we normally do, we ask for something and then repent for it. God comes again in all his mercy, says, "Okay, now you have understood the truth. Things will come back to its normal shape." So this is what, Swami drives home, that diversity is necessary. What do you say, Amay?
Absolutely. In fact, diversity is such an important or integral part of each of one of our lives that even when we look around, you find it's almost bewildering diversity. I was just reading the other day that so far science has been able to categorize only 1.5 million species, and there could be as many as 10 million species, some of which we don't even know after these many years of existence. That is the number of species. And, they were talking about 400,000 different species of plants. Okay, and
I guess there will still be in the Amazon jungle.
Exactly.
Many more to explore.
Totally unexplored territory.
Absolutely. And
millions of species.
The other day I was just looking at, languages. Can you believe it? There are 6,500 languages spoken across the world. 6,500.
This is languages or dialect also?
No, this is excluding dialects. That's what I was coming to.
Wow.
This is excluding the dialect. So you have Hindi, and then you have several variants of Hindi and so forth. And you have 195 countries. People are not very sure about how many exactly countries are there. That's the kind of diversity that we are talking about. Coming to even something like, Bhagawan says different paths. There are 13 major religions. But there are 75 subcastes for, if you were to pull in all the subcastes of all the religions, 75. Just imagine, those are the number of paths that, different people have. That's the kind of diversity that we have.
At a micro level, even you take a tree, for example, look at two leaves of the same tree.
Absolutely.
As we know, even the leaves, the veins on the leaves are also different.
Correct.
Take identical twins.
Right, yeah.
There is a difference even in them. So are there any two things alike? I think God did not want clones, and that's why he created diversity.
Absolutely.
Exactly. In fact, talking about why do we need this kind of a diversity, let me ask you a question, Amay. What sweet do you like most?
I like gulab jamun.
How about you, sir?
Oh, I love jalebi.
Jalebi. Bishu?
I like a special Oriya dish. I can't give you the name.
And Ganesh?
I like motichur ka laddu.
Wow. See, it's very interesting to note that each one of us like a different kind of sweet. And Swami says that essentially what role this sweet plays is to impart sweetness to us. Isn't it?
True.
But one likes, pastries, one likes cakes, sweetmeats, ice creams. There are so many variety of sweets that are available. But the purpose of the sweet is to impart sweetness. In the same way, if we see, there are so many religions in the world. Swami says that there is only one religion, the religion of love. What it essentially means is the paths that are taken are different, but essentially each religion is there suiting each one's taste and needs and circumstances, but then in essence they all impart the sweetness of love in their life. Swami gives a very beautiful anecdote. He says hundreds of people come to Prasanthi Nilayam, each one of them take a different route, but finally their destination is the supreme abode of peace and love, which is Prasanthi.
It is just like we talk in business about mass customization, because every individual wants a customized product. So
Right.
truly speaking, God has done that. He
Yes,
has given a unique path for every devotee to reach Him. And I think this is what diversity is all about.
Yeah,
So it becomes
Very true.
very clear that diversity is the inherent nature of this creation. Because if it has to functionalize, if it has to operationalize, there has to be diversification. Now, if you look in this game of life, all cannot stand on the goalpost. Otherwise, who will shoot the ball? Okay. All cannot choose to bat. Who will do the bowling?
Right.
So variety is the very spice of creation. Not only that, the same man can be a father, a husband, a son, a teacher, a Hindu or a Muslim, a citizen of a country. In this world of relativity, everything is designed to diversify. Just like each ingredient in a food has its own flavor to contribute to the taste of the food, overall dish, each one of us are designed to come together for the manifestation of a higher and a subtler beauty and truth. You take the example of mud. A mud is inert in itself. Take the example of water. Water is inert. The seed, though it is having the potential of life, if until unless it has germinated for all practical purpose, it is inert. Air is inert. But when they all come together, what comes out is a plant with a beautiful flower. So, sum up, diversity is actually a systematic plan of a higher order.
That's very nicely put.
In fact, Ganesh, in Quran, chapter 30, verse 20-22, it is said that these diversities are considered very natural and they are even called God's signs.
Yeah, so basically, as I understand, each one is cut out for something.
Something.
See, even the study circle is possible because there are 5 of us, we have our viewpoints and our perceptions. So everywhere, you need different components coming together to give a collective whole, which is more than the sum of its
Some of
parts.
its parts.
Right.
So, Bishu, now I want you to tell us, let's go back to the source of this. Why are you different from me? Why is Ganesh different from you? Why is a businessman different from a farmer? How did this basic difference in people's temperaments, their competencies, their thinking, their viewpoints, what is the source of all this?
So basically, what you're asking is, how did this diversity come about?
Exactly.
Well, the simple answer to this is, God willed it so.
Yeah, but we need to know how
Well,
he
to
built it
explain.
and how did it happen.
Yeah.
The operational level
Scientific
details.
aspect,
Well, we all know creation is a manifestation of the divine will. And if you look at in practical terms, the Purusha or the cosmic consciousness, who is latent in the Supreme One, influenced Prakriti, which is the cosmic energy. And that is how the creation happened. And the act of influencing included a disturbance to the equilibrium of the 3 gunas. And these 3 gunas are inherent in Prakriti or
The
nature.
3 attributes.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. Now, what are these 3 gunas? What are gunas to start with? Guna, we can simply say it's a characteristic. For example, every entity, every being has a characteristic. For instance, a tiger is fierce, a deer is gentle, a stone is inert, and so on. So, there are basically 3 gunas: Sattva guna, Rajo guna, and Tamo guna. Sattva guna relates to characteristics like harmony, order, equipoise. Another way of understanding Sattva guna is all those qualities which help us to remain in peace or in perfect balance, like practicing selfless service, adhering to right conduct. So all these qualities help us to remain in equipoise. So they are all part of Sattva guna. Next comes Rajo guna. This relates to traits like action, movement, dynamism, and all those qualities that propel us to be active, like passion, like a sense of achievement, aggression, possessiveness. They are all Rajogunas. And finally, the third is Tamoguna, and this relates to all those characteristics that lead to entropy or inertness, like sloth, absolute laziness, inactivity, slumbering, and so on. So all these 3 qualities, order, action, and entropy, they are all intrinsic part of creation. And every entity in creation actually has all these 3 gunas.
It needs all this.
Needs, of course. In fact, Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita declares, there is no being, neither among men here on earth or among the gods in heaven, who is free from the 3 gunas. And so what we see in nature is basically innumerable combinations of these 3 gunas. Just like, you take the 3 colors, RGB, red, green, blue. from the combination of just 3 colors, we have millions of colors. And that's what you see on a TV screen. You basically have only these 3 colors, but you see so many colors on a TV screen. That is how we see the diversity. We have just these 3 gunas, which is the basis, and they are inherent in creation. So people with different temperaments, attitudes, inclinations are because of the play of these 3 gunas.
So basically, what you're saying is, as Swami has said, all this diversity is because of the permutation and combination of the 3 gunas or
For example,
attributes.
a person who is a saint will have a larger proportion of sattvic guna in him. A person who's an artist will have a lot of rajo guna. Egotistic, then definitely he has a lot of rajo guna.
I think it's not only got to do with human beings. I think even creation,
entire
Like
creation,
Swami says, a rock. A rock
yes.
has got more of tamas, and
Right.
therefore it is still at one place.
Yes.
But then he says that it is diversity is a permutation or combination of the 3 gunas and the 5 elements.
Yes, sir.
Am I
In
right,
fact,
Giri?
very true, sir. Adi Shankara gives a beautiful description, a very systematic process of how from the creator, the entire creation emerged with the play of the 3 gunas and the 5 elements. So I'll focus more on the 5 elements. The 5 elements being earth, fire, wind, water and space or ether. And the description goes thus. He says that what we have as the creation is a mix of the 5 gross elements. But they were not the first things that came into being. From the creator actually were born subtle elements with the same names, that is earth, fire, wind, water and ether. And each of these subtle elements, the tamas aspect of them divided into 2 halves. Each half further divided itself into 4 small pieces, 4 small parts, I would say. And each gross element, like say earth, is made up of 1/2 quality of earth and 1/8 of each other element. So basically earth is not just earth, but earth has 50% the quality of earth and some qualities of fire, some qualities of wind, water and ether. So each gross element by itself is a combination of all these 5 different elements. It's a wonderful theory. I'm sure if you go ahead and read this theory on Panchikaranam, it will really appeal to an intellectual mind.
Yeah, that's it's amazing the mysterious way in which God has created this, but coming to something which we literally witness when every child is born. Now, as science says, when the zygote is formed in the mother's womb, initially, do we know that all the cells are perfectly alike? In fact, in the first few days, the mitotic cell divisions begin converting the zygote to a multicellular organism. And after going through the blastula stage, somewhere between 7 and 10 days, the gastrulation takes place. This is when, although all the cells have the same DNA, different cells now begin to what they call turn on or express different genes to become different organs. And this is what in biology they call as a cellular differentiation. Now, this is amazing that how all the cells which are exactly identical for no reason or for some unknown reason start getting into groups to form tissues and organs. And can you imagine, but for this process, the embryo would have been just a mass of flesh with no purpose at all. But instead, you see what diversity has done. You come up with a human being.
So, just to put it simply, just to understand what you're saying that in the beginning, there is just a mass of cells and then suddenly...
Which are all
and
alike.
all are identical,
All are
exactly identical.
Yeah, and then a certain group of cells decide to become the brain.
Yes.
So certain cells
Some
decide to
intelligence in
become
them prompts them that, okay, now these should become the brain, these should become the stomach.
Again, diversity seems to be natural.
Absolutely. It's the bedrock of creation.
Basically, what I feel is it's all guna dynamics. It's a play of gunas. As Bishu brother was mentioning, the 3 gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. One thing we have to be very clear. We cannot label one guna as good, like sattva is good and tamas is bad. That is not the right approach.
Do you know we sleep because of tamasic quality?
Tamasic.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have, you would have suffered from insomnia
The
throughout
key
your life.
the key is the right proportion.
Exactly.
Just like if you take the example of a fan, we have the 3 blades. All the 3 blades are equally important for the fan to function.
Right.
Yeah, but again, a doubt comes in here. Now we keep repeating this word, all are important, all are important. Now let me ask you one thing. Okay, maybe this is the reason why different people have different units of compassion, units of love, and also different people have different units of violent tendencies in them. Now, why I'm raising these points is, now let's take the example of a thief or a terrorist, which is very common these days. Now, you mean to say this terrorism in him or her is because of the permutation, combination of the elements and the gunas in that individual. So that's it. So then why are we saying that's not good? So what I can understand, please add in if you would feel like, that yes, we do respect these differences, and that is why you have some people, maybe if the tamas quality is very predominant in them, it may manifest as negative tendencies. But I think that is where Bhagawan says that we need to evolve and climb up this ladder of the gunas. And as he normally says, though all are equally important, you kill the tamas because that is the lowest rung of the ladder. You kill the tamas using rajas, that is, use your ambition, your passion to kill inactivity. Then you use sattva, which is more
at the level of order.
At the level of order to kill rajas. And then eventually one needs to transcend all these three gunas. So the expectation is that we really move upward on this ladder of gunas and eventually reach a point wherein there's a perfect balance. In other words, you transcend these. So can we understand diversity in this way?
I guess once you reach that level, you'll actually see unity. Because, the person who is beyond the gunas, which is the Lord or our masters, they do not see any difference between, for example, somebody like Nisargadatta Maharaj was once saying, somebody came and complained, Nisargadatta Maharaj used to always be at the level of I, the Swami says, the big I. And when somebody came and said, Maharaj, you keep talking about the I, do you know about the amount of problems that are there in the world? And his answer was, oh, is it the case? Because my world is very peaceful. Is your world very different from that?
It's all relative.
So, it did not mean that there were no problems, but he was able to see the purpose of each and every activity that is happening and able to understand, oh, this is the reason, this is the Lord's will. Etc.
And I think that is why Swami says, don't hate the bad person, hate the bad in him.
Quality.
Don't hate the terrorist, but hate the terrorist tendencies in him. Correct. But unfortunately, what we do is we associate with the person, we start hating the being. Well, I think we have discussed a lot about how this diversity has come up. But now we understand very clearly that if we were to see only this diversity, we would be like the five fingers fighting with each other. So now comes the next step. How do we deal with this diversity? We need to acknowledge that there is a difference. We need to leverage on these differences to come up with a collective good. But at the same time, it can also lead to fights and differences. And we see the type of various troubles we have in the world today, the religious conflicts, fundamentalism.
Everything is because of diversity.
All this is because of diversity.
So how do we deal?
So how do we deal with
I think misplaced understanding of diversity.
Yeah, you're right. It is a wrong understanding and a wrong perception of diversity.
So I think, as Amay just pointed out, there have been masters or great sages in the past who have been able to see this kind of unity in diversity. And in fact, the Vedas that we have today are the outcome of their vision of that kind of a unity. In fact, in Purusha Suktam, it is revealed. There's this famous portion.
Yes, and I think Swami likes Purusha Suktam.
He chants that so often.
He chants along with us.
Yes.
When it is so
why don't we
wonderful
chant that verse which talks about this?
Yeah, sure. Brahmanosya mukhamasit bahurajanyah kritaha urutadasya yadvaishyah padvyagum shudro ajayata. Basically, in this verse, what the great sage of realization is conveying to us is that though we see there are four different categories in human life, for example, the Brahmin class or the intellectual class actually form the head, Brahmanosya Mukhamasit, that is, they form the head of the Brahman, which is God. Then they say Bahura Janya Kritaha, that is warrior class, who actually protect the nation, the society. They form the shoulders of the Supreme Lord.
The military, the
police and all that. And the third kind of profession, which is, administrative or the business class, they form the thighs. They are the basic support system of the Supreme Cosmic God. And the Shudras, that is the people who work in the fields, the farmers, the people who...
I think the entire service sector.
The entire service sector, for that matter. They form the most important part of the Supreme Being, which is His feet. So this way, what they have done is, they have made us see in good light that all these various aspects are but aspects of God Himself.
Yeah, Giridhar, in fact, that is a very profound analogy that is drawn in the Vedic verse, which is basically saying that these four different types of categories, or varnas as they are called, is actually not to be understood the way it has wrongly been understood as casteism. It was not at all that.
Yes.
It was all about administrative convenience. I mean, tell me which nation or which society does not have these four categories of people: the intelligentsia, the academia, the defense sector, the traders, the business segment, and the service sector. So it's all about functioning of society, I guess, and that's what diversity is all
In fact,
about.
they all serve a divine purpose.
Yeah.
And that's precisely what even the verse is trying to tell us, that in our own body we are able to see these various functions happening. So we are actually able to see the unity in diversity in our body itself. We have an intelligentsia, we have an administration, we are having the service sector within our body. And that's why I would like to, at this point, I'm remembering the statement of Bhagawan where he says, the proper study of mankind is man. The way I understand it is, if you want to study what is mankind, just study what is man. You see that the entire body is so interconnected and it's so interdependent. And Bhagavan gives a very interesting example here. He says you're walking along the road and you get pricked by a thorn. And the first thing that happens is your mouth says, ow, and then your hand goes to pick it out. And then you have, if you're a little child, you'll start crying. Now, did the leg at any point of time say, or the hand say that, this is not my business. The thorn has pricked the leg and it's the business of the leg to handle it. Or did the eyes not say that, why am I supposed to cry? Why? Because each part of the body feels that we are part of the whole. And imagine if this is the same sentiment that prevails amongst each one of us as we live out our roles in the society. I mean, how harmoniously we will all be living. Can we then tolerate pain in any part of the society? I don't think that will be able to happen. So even though diversity is absolutely necessary, each one has its own place, but we must understand that together we are part of that cosmic whole.
In fact, this is where I would recall what happened when the earthquake struck Gujarat a decade ago. And the way Swami rushed out to serve the people in Gujarat. And the same thing happened recently in Orissa. When there was a flood in Orissa, Swami's heart opened up. And he's actually demonstrating this. When something is happening there, how can you sit silent? He asked the authorities that, are there no rich people who are doing something there? Yes. And when they said, Swami, there are, but it takes time and all. Swami said, they're nothing doing. I'll build houses for them. I mean, this is what Swami expects us to reach out to any pain, any suffering happening in any part of the globe, because we all are one supreme being.
Exactly.
In fact, that's how even the Gram Seva started. We'll not go into that story now, but there are any number of examples if you take Swami's.
In fact, one of the Orissa people, were saying, "Ye kaun hai? Who is this Bhagwan Baba who's, coming? We don't know him. He stays in Andhra Pradesh, but our pain he heard." And in fact, when they all had come here, I still remember last year during Ugadi time, they all had come here and Bhagwan was, showering them with several utensils and things that is necessary for their home. And in the background, the bhajan was going on. Din dukhiyon se prem karo mera, Sai prasanna hoga. Sai mera, main tera, ye prem ki behti dhara. And it was such a beautiful sight. In fact, I'm reminded of just this bhajan. I'll quickly, just tell you this incident. It so happened in Vrindavan that Bhagwan, was getting on to the stage, and I happened to be singing this bhajan at that moment. And Swami stood on the stage, and he's looking at me and kind of telling the whole audience when I was singing Sai Mera Main Tera, Sai Mera Main Tera, and Bhagwan is enacting the whole thing, that I am yours, you're mine, and we both are together the same. That is I think the principle that Bhagwan or any avatar comes down to teach. That diversity will be there, but we have to see our unity in it.
In fact, during this Gujarat earthquake incident, one of our elders told Swami that, Swami, it's a great service that you're doing. Swami said, see, if your child falls down and in pain your child cries out, what would you do? He said, I'll rush and pick up my child, Swami. Swami said, is that a great service that you're doing? Then Swami made a beautiful sentence in Telugu. He said, Idina Panira, this is my duty.
I think that's what he expects us to discharge, the duty, obligation of love, the duty of love.
Yeah, whenever Swami does anything for us and we tell Swami, you have taken so much shrama for us. Swami says, ఇది శ్రమ కాదు బంగారు, ఇది ప్రేమ.
This is not.
It's not labor or a strain, but it is love.
It is love.
In fact, I'm reminded of another incident. It was in 2005 when I was in my second year MBA, and we were blessed to be with Bhagawan in a private conversation, all the MBA boys in Bhajan Hall. And Bhagawan gives this, definition of manager. I will not go into the rest of the words, but the first is M stands for mind of man, and A stands for awareness of Atma. And I always used to wonder, how does the Atma really, figure out in this manager definition, which is a pretty worldly kind of, So I asked Bhagawan, I said, Swami, what is the meaning of this Atma? How do we understand the purport of this awareness of Atma? And Swami so beautifully said, see, in the office, there will be a superior, there will be a subordinate. But outside, there is no superior, there is no subordinate. There is only one, that is Atma. And he said, see, when you are in the office premises, you cannot say that, oh, all of us are one, and therefore it will become very difficult to discharge our duties. A father has to shout at his son. He cannot say, oh, we both are the other. But it cannot become personal. The moment we step out of our day-to-day routine, we sit back and then we figure out, oh, we are in fact all one.
At the operational level, we need to appreciate and respect these differences for the functioning of
But
the
know at
society.
the core that there is that same
Yes.
principle
Correct.
within everyone. In fact, if we realize this and keep this in our mind, in our day-to-day conversations, in the way we deal with people, our whole perspective in life will change.
Absolutely.
In fact, I am reminded of a very powerful incident. This happened many years ago during one of the major celebrations in Prasanthi Nilayam. I think it was one of those birthday celebrations in the earlier years when the ashram was small and the ashram services also were not so comprehensive. So there were limitations in terms of water supply, sanitation, etc. And what happened one day was the drainage system faced a severe crisis. And there was a major block, and sewage water had started actually overflowing from a particular drain. And the only way to stop this was someone manually going down into the gutter and clearing the obstruction.
My God.
Now, while there are so many people discussing about what to do, how to go about this, there was one Sevadal from Orissa. He had no second thoughts. He just removed his shirt and he dived. He dived straight in. In a few minutes, he cleared the block successfully. He jumped out of the mug. He headed straight for a shower. He wore a new dress and he was back in duty. Now, why was this person able to do this? Because he didn't consider that work to be low.
Right.
Because everything is God's work and every work ought to be treated with same respect. And what is of course also interesting is later the omniscient Swami, when he was giving Padmaskaram to all the Sevadals after their completion of their duties, Swami came to this person straight and he declared, this person will not have another birth.
Wow.
But anyway, what is so important now for our discussion is, if we look at everything as divine, because the divine in fact is present in everything, then the attitude that we have when we meet people, when we do any particular task, absolutely changes. It acquires a completely new dimension.
Correct.
Everything becomes sacred.
What I find here is, especially for all the Sai devotees, when they are in Prasanthi Nilayam, suppose they are doing a duty in Kulwant Hall, or they are doing any duty, suppose there's a gardener, who's a normal gardener. If I go and asking, what is your profession? He may say, okay, I'm a gardener. But then if he goes on to say, I'm the gardener in front of Yajur Mandiram, then the light in which I look at him goes, it almost touches the sky.
Correct.
There are so many drivers we have met. Suppose somebody says, okay, I'm Swami's driver. I sit next to Swami and drive. The light in which again we look at him will be totally different. What we have to understand here is, instead of restricting our vision only to Prasanthi Nilayam, why don't we think that when we go out in the world, entire world is his creation. Why should we limit Swami to only Yajur Mandiram?
And
After all,
therefore,
this-
every duty,
Yeah.
look at it as a person who's doing it for
For
Bhagawan.
for God.
Which every role becomes respectful.
In fact, the fact that for 2 weeks Sevadals are coming from each state, they're getting a feel of that sanctified ambience which Swami gives in this ashram. They should carry that same feeling wherever they go back. It's an excellent place that Swami has given
And
us.
this is what dignity of labor is all
Yes.
about, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Besides the spiritual aspect, even if you look at it from a very practical, down-to-earth perspective, every role is so important. For example, can we imagine a surgeon doing a perfect operation if the sweeper has not cleaned the operation theatre, or the workers at the central sterilization unit, they have not taken care to ensure that all the instruments are absolutely sterile.
Right, true.
You know, he may be the best doctor in the world, but if some worker in the central sterilization unit has not done his job well, the patient can be in serious trouble with infections.
That's true.
And I think we all have this common experience. If the maid servant doesn't come on time, you know, if the milk vendor doesn't come on time, how our life becomes so difficult. In fact, for some people, without the morning tea and coffee,
the day wouldn't start.
the day wouldn't start. In fact, I am reminded of these dabbawalas of Mumbai. You know, the way they meticulously serve this freshly cooked food from every home to every office goer is really so phenomenal. And these people can really bring Mumbai to a halt if they come on strike. So every role, that's why, you know, is so important. We can't really demean any particular role. In fact, talking of our fingers, the example with which we started, I just remember one very fascinating quote of Sir Isaac Newton. He says that the thumb alone is enough to prove that God exists.
Amazing.
In fact, Swami, with his own life as a message, illustrates this, that we need to respect and love everybody equally. In fact, I remember this particular incident which Shri Narasimurthy Garu, the warden of the Brindavan hostel, has often narrated. There is still a sweeper in the Brindavan hostel. His name is Mr. Ramaya. And it so happened that few weeks after the Prime Minister, the to-be Prime Minister then, that is Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, had visited Swami, and Swami had so lovingly told him that ye tumhara maa ka ghar hai, this is your mother's home, and you can come here anytime. And that was the Prime Minister of India. Few weeks after that, the sweeper of the hostel was there waiting outside the gates of Trai Vrindavan in order to seek Swami's blessings for his daughter's wedding. And in fact, Swami had come for darshan at around 8 o'clock. He looked at him and then walked away. And after darshan, Swami again walked straight into Trai Vrindavan, called few devotees for interview. And this person was feeling very bad. He went back to Warden sir and he said, Sir, Swami, but he did not tell anything. He did not bless my daughter's marriage. So sir said, let's wait and pray to Swami, because prayer is very dear to Swami, and he will listen and yield to anyone's prayers. So he asked him to go and stand there in this place called the Elephant Corner, as it is called in the Brindavan hostel, because there is a statue of an elephant there. And he went back there and he was waiting. Immediately after the interviews, which was past 9 o'clock in the morning, Swami came straight. He did not go in car outside as he used to do normally, but he walked straight to Ramaya and he said, Badapadutunava, are you feeling sad that Swami did not speak to you when he came? Then Swami gave a very, very touching and beautiful explanation. Swami said, see, today is Monday. Monday 7:30 to 9 is Rahu Kalam, an inauspicious period. And it is during this period one is not supposed to take up any auspicious work. That is why I waited for 9 o'clock to go by, and I came rushing to you so that I can bless you and your daughter for your daughter's marriage.
Memorable occasion it would have been.
Imagine, Prime Minister of India on one side and sweeper of the hostel
All are same
on the other
for
side.
Swami.
Absolutely same love from
And
Swami
Bhagawan
side.
gave a sari, and
Yeah, he made it
Bless the Mangal
Bhagawan does
Sutra.
that always in Kodaikanal tips. On the last day of Kodaikanal, he always makes it a point to call all the washermen and the dhobis and give them expensive saris and clothes. Always.
One very important lesson we have to learn from Swami's life is the attitude of gratitude. If only we were to sit back and think before we retire for the day, how many people we owe ourselves to for what we are today, we'll be humbled to realize the interconnectivity of this interdependent reality. Not only giving dignity to every role, as we saw in the example of sweeper and be the driver and policeman or not, Swami went one step ahead in expressing his gratitude to the doctors who operated him. I was there for the function held in Ramesh Hall in Vrindavan, and I could visibly see how both the doctors were overwhelmed by Swami's love and compassion. That extra human touch which goes beyond the professional exchange of money and other things is what brings out the underlying feeling of selfless love and unity.
When you said gratitude, I'm reminded of a very beautiful experience which most of us know, but would be worth to recall here, was when Bhagawan had gone on one occasion to Horsley Hills, which is close to Parthi. It's a hill station. And it so happened that Bhagawan was living in the guest house over there. And there was a buffalo, a particular buffalo which used to, carry the hot water for Bhagawan's bath. And Bhagawan and all the party who were staying in that guest house. And towards the end of the couple of days that Swami stayed over there, as he was getting into the car, Swami had given everybody, whatever, for all the work, hard work that they had done. Suddenly Swami stopped and said, I have forgotten one person. And he got down from the car and he went, and this buffalo, which was standing over there, Bhagavan went to this buffalo, patted it and said, Bangaru, I'm so happy. Thank you. I want to pay my gratitude to you for all the hard work that you have done of bringing hot water to me. And so saying, he got the owner of the buffalo and clicked a picture with both of them. And the best part was the next year when Bhagavan went to Horsley Hills, Swami remembered to give that photograph to the owner and said, last year when I had come over here.
That is Swami.
That is Swami. That is gratitude. Even a buffalo does not miss Bhagavan's gratitude when he need not do anything actually, at his cosmic level. But he does not miss out even on a...
I think picking up, Amey, from where you and Ganesh mentioned, just look at our own life, as Ganesh was saying, starting from the morning. You get up, you go to brush your teeth, and you turn the tap and water comes. Now, do we realize that if the concerned people had not put on the pump, wherever it could be, there would have been no water? You use a toothpaste, but somebody has manufactured the toothpaste, somebody has manufactured the brush. If you were to think like this, you have your bath, you have your breakfast, there's a cook or your mother who has cooked the food. But where did the groceries come from? The grocery shop? Where did they get it from? The farmer? My God, if you think like this, the number of people who make it possible for us to live our life. Like today we are talking here, there's somebody handling the recording, there's the light here and the electricity supplies here. It's mind-boggling. Yes. But what Swami is expecting us, I think, from all the examples you've given is, therefore, let us love all. Because you never know who has really contributed to your life being smooth. And let's express our gratitude to them. Because all the people, and I really mean it, all the people are extremely essential and are performing their respective roles to keep this chain of life well lubricated. Well, I think we have really discussed a lot on how to deal with this diversity. But yet, coming to the painful question, we are not able to do it successfully. So the next part is why... Giridhar, why do you think we are not able to really see through this diversity?
Sir, I once had the opportunity to ask Swami, when there is only one, why do we see so many? Why do we see diversity? Swami gave a very beautiful answer. He said, Lokamanta zeros, zeros, zeros. Only one has value, but people don't see that one. They see only zeros and somehow give value to something which is valueless. Then on another occasion, he went on to say that ego is a very big problem. Swami said, in fact, he says, each one is so attached to his name and form that he becomes so self-centered. Swami uses two beautiful words. He says, Swartham, selfishness, and Swaprayojanam. What is beneficiary to me? That is all that one thinks of all the time. Swami said, that is fundamentally the problem why we fail to see the unity in diversity.
In fact, Giridhar, you mentioned about ego, and what comes to my mind is a very good story from the life of Adi Shankara. Once Adi Shankara was returning from the river Ganges after taking a holy dip, and he was passing through a narrow lane, and he saw that from the opposite direction there was a Chandala or an untouchable, that is a person belonging to a lower caste, and this person was approaching from the other direction. The Shankara immediately stopped and he shouted, "Move away, get out of my way," because he felt, he will be polluted by the presence of that other person. And then what happens is really interesting. This so-called Chandala, he stops and he asks Shankara, "Okay, you want me to move away, but whom are you asking to move away? Is it my body that should move away?" In that case, one body is asking another body to move away and both are inert. So what authority does that body have to ask this boy to move away? And if you're addressing my spirit, then the same spirit that is there in me is in you also. So how can it be that same Atma, it cannot really ask itself to move away from itself?
In fact, it's present everywhere.
It's present
There's
everywhere.
no question of moving away.
No, the Chandala asks, is the sun reflected in the water of Ganga different from the sun reflected in the wine?
Yeah.
Shankara is really flabbergasted. He never expected such wisdom from so-called untouchable. And he immediately realizes that it is definitely the divine which has come in that form to teach him a lesson. And the lesson is obvious, that you cannot have ego. And that's what God taught him through that.
There is nobody called an untouchable. I think
Absolutely.
that's why God took that form to show us that.
Yes.
Shankara
yes.
and Chandala's story reminds me of a more contemporary story wherein one battleship was ordering the other ship to change its course. It was shortly after dark, the visibility was poor with patchy fog, so the captain of the ship chose to remain on the bridge, keeping an eye on all the activities. Just then, a sailor reported that one more ship was heading straight in their direction. The captain commanded the signalman to advise the other ship to change the course by 20 degrees. Back came the reply, "It is better if you change the course." The captain said, "I am the captain. I command you to change the course by 20 degrees. I am a seaman, second class. I advise you to change the course." By that time, the captain he lost his temper. He was fully furious and he shouted, "I am a battleship. You better change the course by 20 degrees. Back came the reply, "I am a lighthouse." And needless to say, the captain, the battleship had to change the course. Now, there was a paradigm shift in captain's perception in the way he was looking at the situation. But I would say the stronger driving point here is that most of us are enveloped with the fog of ego, the darkness of ignorance, and we feel that might is right. Position alone can command, and that is always right. Ego is the fundamental reason for this myopic vision, which is leading to a lot of preconceived notion. And the earlier we see the one operating in all, the faster we move in our spiritual path.
Okay, but sorry, again, I'm coming with these doubts because, see, when you speak in this fashion, saying, okay, everybody is important, every role is important, I mean, are you saying then there is no scope for ambition in this world? I mean, here's a son of a farmer I know who, managed to study well and got into the IIT and later is working in the IT sector, is very happy about it. So are you saying, no, the farmer's role is very important, so you continue to be a farmer and you don't need to really go up? Or are you saying that a poor child should not really aspire to become a rich person and then go on to become the minister of a state? I mean,
Okay, sir.
let's
Correct, sir.
clarify that point.
Maybe if I can, in my little understanding, try to throw some light. What you're trying to say, sir, is fundamentally the ongoing war, if we can say, between ambition and contentment. Means, does it mean that a poor person, a barber's son, can never grow up, or he should not aspire to grow up? No, that is not what Bhagawan or the masters are saying. But while we are in that position, let us enjoy and let us not look down upon.
Let's not demean that position.
Yeah,
That's-
demean the position, as well as at the same time not look upon something else as, oh my God, that is great. I am so useless doing this kind of work. So ambition and contentment can coexist. They don't compete with each other. They are complementary to each other. So that has to be made very clear, that a person, however lower in rung, can aspire to become. But at the same time, the lower rungs do not become less important. They are as important as every rung in the ladder of success or
That's a
evolution.
very nice explanation you have given, Amay, that basically you're saying there is nothing wrong in upward mobility or horizontal mobility. It's not that you have to be stuck to your segment of society where you're born in, but based on your competence. If you have the stuff in you, you can always move forward and aspire for something big,
Right.
but never look down. Don't do it with the feeling that something is less, something is more.
Correct.
Right.
That should not be the motivation for going
That
higher.
need not be the motivation. So a prime minister is as important as a farmer who is working in the farm.
Absolutely.
And in fact, this is where I would like to come to the aspect of inequity and inequality. Now, there's a very significant difference between the two. And why I'm saying is how diversity can misfire and lead to a lot of evils in society because we don't see the unity. Now, inequity refers to unfair, avoidable differences arising from poor governance, from corruption or cultural expulsion. Whereas when you say inequality, it does exist because of less resources, shortage of resources. So Swami also says no one can bring about arithmetic equality in society. You cannot have everybody earning the same amount of money, everybody having the same size of the house. Swami says that's not the blueprint for creation. But what is sad is inequity. Because in inequity, it means one person gets more at the cost of the other.
At the cost.
At the cost of the other. I think that should be underlined. Iniquity invokes moral outrage. It is unfair and indefensible, and it is a result of human failure. And that's why today we see marginalization of segments of society, of communities, of sects, of disadvantaged people, creating a sense of deprivation, a sense of injustice, and the outcome, as we see, is revolt. Yeah. And this is really why we have terrorism, or in India, the Naxalism, the Maoism. It's because you have one segment of society which is marginalized and feel, why can't we aspire to be like them?
Inequity.
Correct.
And we fail to see, what I'm trying to say is we are not leveraging on diversity the way it ought to be leveraged upon. Instead, we are creating discord by not seeing the unity.
And in fact, if you look at the various forms of governance, each form of governance has come into being to try to solve this problem, but they have not done it. Because the systems of governance, be it capitalism, socialism, communism, per se, idealistically, they are great. But the problem is not with the systems, but with the people.
The practice of the system.
Practice of the systems. So as long as the people in the system try to exploit the other, none of the systems are going to work. And that's why Swami says, as you were saying, you cannot have equality in society, because you really cannot have equality of distribution of material possessions. But what you can definitely have, Swami says, is equality through the cultivation of love. And that comes when you promote a sense of divinity, a sense of recognition of the divine principle present in every being. In fact, I'm reminded of what happened in the East Godavari district. And this is a really practical example of what Swami is saying, the equality through the practice of love. Now, Swami provided water to the East Godavari districts, and it was absolutely, again, one of those unexpected announcements. And unasked, these tribals benefited from Swami's grace. What many people do not know is these areas are actually Naxal infested. Yeah.
Yes.
And after Swami's water project started, it was followed up with a lot of service initiatives by the Sai organization. And now this whole place has undergone such an amazing transformation. The Naxalism has been totally wiped out of this place. In fact, I had the chance to interview one Naxal leader, former Naxal leader. For 15 years, he was in the Naxal movement. You know, he went up the ranks, he was holding a gun, and he was in the forests.
Mike, I mean, you went and interviewed him?
Yeah, he was, because now he is a Sai, active Sai worker.
That's what love can do, really.
And it's not only him, it is so many other people like him. Because now they have seen that the Sai Sevadals and their work is nothing but just expression of empathy and love. And that is what has brought about this so-called equality now.
Right, brothers. I think we've had a very elaborate discussion on diversity, the need to see unity in diversity. Now, in our wrapping up round, I'll give you just a minute or two. Each one of you, tell me, what is the key to solving this problem of diversity? How do we see unity in diversity? Vishu, let's start with you again.
Well, one thing, if you look at the finger story, how did the fingers finally realize that they are all one? It is because the heart told them.
Yeah.
The heart told the fingers, you are not just mere fingers. You are actually human values. You are divine beings. And when they listened to that, only then the unity came about. So what is most important is each person recognizing that he is not an ordinary individual, but a spark of the divine. Secondly, listening to the heart. And what is heart? It is the voice of conscience. It is the voice of love. We have any number of examples, if you look around, individuals and organizations who have really done amazing feats just by following their heart.
Yeah, I mean, organizations such as Mother Teresa's Missionaries of Charity. This very famous story where the biographer of Mother Teresa asked, Mother, how are you able to treat leper patients, wash away their pus? I wouldn't do it for anything in the world. I mean, even for $1 million, I wouldn't do it. And her answer was so simple. You know, even I don't do it for $1 million. I do it for the love of Christ. That should become the motivation for each one of us.
Action.
Yeah, and here is where, I mean, I think I should give this, and Bhagawan, we have heard Bhagawan singing this bhajan so many times.
Yeah.
Where he says, Prem Ishwar hai, Ishwar prem hai,
हर धड़कन में साई समा है, ईश्वर प्रेम है.
And then the bhajan, of course, everybody knows the bhajan. Rama Rahim, Krishna Kareem, Zoroastra, Yeshu Nanak. कोई भी नाम जपो रे मनवा, ईश्वर प्रेम. So the routes will be many, the paths will be many. We cannot expect the paths to be one. But let us understand this. The undercurrent of all the paths is love.
Over to you, Giridhar.
In fact, there's a beautiful story to illustrate this. It seems there was one father who was on his deathbed, and he had prepared his will. He had 2 sons and a daughter. And in his will he had written that, half the property should go to the first son, 1/4 of the property should go to his second son, and 1/5 of his property should go to his daughter.
Complicated as usual.
Yeah, as usual. And as usual, they were all fighting over it. Okay,
That's why
after
it
the father
gets
passed
stuck
away.
up in the papers only. It
Yeah.
doesn't come out.
After the father passed away, they were all fighting over it, and a wise man came by, and he inquired as to what the problem is. They said about all this division and all that, and they said the only property their father owned were 19 camels. Now comes the problem. Half the property, half of 19. 19 camels, how can we divide it by 2? So that's not possible. So that was really the confusion, how to divide the camels in the proportion in which their father had given it to them. So the wise man then said, okay, let me solve this chaos which is there in your family. Let me add my 1 camel to your 19 and let's see what happens. So he added that 1 to 19 and it became 20. Half of 20, 10 camels were given to the first son.
Smart.
1/4 of 20, 5 camels were given to the second son. And 1/5 of 20, that is 4 camels, were given to the daughter. So 10 plus 5 plus 4 is 19 and he took back his camel.
So easily solved.
I wish judiciary was like that.
But the interesting part is, I narrated this story in Chennai and Swami had a wonderful, he gave a totally different meaning to this story. In fact, one of the elders, when they pointed out that this is a very wonderful story, Swami asked, what really did you understand from this story? And he said, Swami, it was all chaos when there were only 19 camels, and by adding that 1 camel, it was easy to divide. Swami said, no, that is not the lesson to be learned. He said that 1 camel is God.
That's it.
The moment you add that 1 camel in your chaotic life, life gains meaning.
Amazing. Beautiful.
How beautiful. Otherwise, 19 by 2 never made sense, isn't it?
Right.
But by adding that 1 camel to 19, it became
Recognizing.
20 and life gained meaning.
That's the key.
Recognizing the divine.
The key to seeing unity in diversity
Is to
is
add
to
God.
make God the center of your life. As this beautiful bhajan which you just sang said, God is in every breath, in every heartbeat of us. Let's just recognize that and make him a part of each and everything that we do in our day-to-day life.
Ganesh, you have the last word.
Yes, sir. As it comes out very clearly from all the discussion that we have done till now, is the key to perceive unity in diversity is proper understanding of God's design, seeing things in right perspective. I have one more very beautiful analogy for this. We all know that at times Swami talks to us directly or even internally, gives us a lot of personal attention, the type of which even our own mothers may not be able to give. And then suddenly he withdraws himself completely, behaving like a perfect stranger. Swami is very good at it. And I'm sure all of us have gone through that period of refrigeration.
Sure.
And it is very, very, very painful. The same applies to frequent dreams of Swami that may abruptly stop suddenly, or the type of internal connection with Swami which one may be enjoying may suddenly stop. He may feel that
Yes.
sense of
I think
disconnection.
everyone goes through these.
So Swami is teaching a
experiences.
very significant lesson here. Bhagawan is like a cosmic surgeon performing his operation at a global level. When the surgeon goes to operate, he uses his tools like knife, forceps, tweezers, needles of different size as per his requirement. When he lifts the knife with the intention of dissection of the chest for the heart surgery, or when he picks up a forceps to pluck out a foreign material from the body, or when he picks up a needle to stitch the operated region, imagine if the knife cries out that he alone should be held by the surgeon, or if the forceps prays to substitute needle or knife just for the joy of being held by the surgeon all the time.
The patient
Can
will
the
be
surgeon
no more.
can the surgeon ever perform a surgery? No.
Yeah.
Similarly, in this game of life, God has gifted us with our own unique qualities to play a certain role. We must be extremely grateful to Swami if he has chosen us to be his instrument, and if he withdraws, then we must focus on doing our homework, which is purifying our thoughts, purifying our heart, because only a pure sterilized instrument is fit to be used in surgeon's operating table. The message is very clear. We have to do our sadhana, wait for our turn to come to be used in the divine hand, and be patient. And the most important thing is, just like the knife, the needle and the forceps are equally important in surgeon's table, I or you alone are not important. But the success of the operation, success of this cosmic operation for which Bhagawan has come is most important. Hence, when we make Bhagawan the center of our life, when every work is seen as Swami's work, we will perceive the unity in diversity.
Fantastic. It's a beautiful
Wonderful.
analogy. Brothers, thank you so much. I think we have dealt with this topic in great length, and I do hope our listeners will pardon us for the time we have taken, because it was really essential. We first started with why diversity was necessary, then moved on to how diversity really came about. Then we said, no, we need to deal with this diversity, because otherwise it can lead to a lot of problems. So we said, how do we see unity in diversity? And finally, we wound up with what is the key to be able to really leverage on this diversity for the collective good. Just to sum up, the thought that comes in my mind is, when the divine source or the divine light first projects itself in creation, it's like the light moving through a prism. And this prism of Maya or illusion refracts it into so many different colors. And that's why we see diversity. But we know very well that if you keep another prism in front of it, these colors again merge into the one light. So let's pray to Bhagawan that, having first been refracted through this prism of Maya or illusion, let's place the next prism of wisdom, of divine grace, so that all this diversity we see merges again into unity. And let's pray sincerely to Bhagawan that let the whole world, let all the people be able to perceive this underlying unity, the underlying Swami in everything, so that we all can live in harmony, in perfect coordination, appreciating each one's role at his lotus feet. So with this, let us conclude with a prayer, praying for world peace.
Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu, Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu, Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you very much, sir, for moderating this session, and brothers for participating. Dear listeners, this was the 4th episode of our series Radio Sai Study Circle, and this was recorded in the studios of Radio Sai in February 2011. You can find the text of this program along with illustrations on our website radiosai.org. More importantly, please do tell us what you feel about this program. As always, you can send in your emails generously to listener@radiosai.org. Thank you very much, and Sai Ram from Prasanthi Connect App.